I am one of those people who often has her head in the clouds, and honestly, it's sort of intentional. Yes, I do want to know what is going on in the world, but the world can be a really noisy place. And sometimes the stuff we hear the most is just a little too angry for me. So I very intentionally choose what I bring into my space from the books I read, the shows I watch, and the podcasts that I listen to. Pretty much anything else that occupies my time is selected intentionally. There's only one thing that usually gets free reign in my world, and that is music because I really do love all kinds of music and have a pretty eclectic taste. Because I am so intentional with what I focus on and what doesn't get my attention, I'm often oblivious to the big topics of the day. Like the idea being shouted into the entrepreneurial world recently that online courses and podcasting is dead. If you're listening to this episode, obviously the latter isn't true. And I will say, I don't think either are true. In fact, I think, and this is my own personal opinion, but I think the people making this claim either had a course or a podcast that they perceived as a failure, or they are just trying to make an antagonistic statement to get a little attention. We see each and every year that some form of our marketing is dead. Blogging is dead. Websites are dead. Email lists are dead. These are the ones that I see the most, but I knew it was only a matter of time until we heard someone claiming the same for online courses and podcasting. And in case you didn't realize it, claiming that any of these things are dead are not my words or my opinions. I actually don't agree with those statements at all. I believe that blogging, websites, email lists, along with online courses and podcasts, are alive and well. I only mention this because it touches on one of the rules that I broke in my business, a broken rule that has honestly helped fuel my success. And this controversy circles very closely to the point I am hoping to make with today's episode. I am not here to fuel that controversy. I am simply here to have the conversation that I think many of us need to hear. One that reminds us when it comes to building a business that supports the life we want to live, we need to build it on our own terms. So grab a cup of coffee and get cozy, my friends, and then let's dive into today's conversation. Welcome to The Solo Grind. I am Teresa Schloop, a brand strategist, web designer, and solo small business owner who is living the good life and loving what I am creating. Here, we talk about building a life and business that feels just perfect for you because success isn't about checking boxes and racking up accomplishments. It's about truly living the life of your dreams. I rarely touch on controversial topics, mainly because when I do, I hear a lot of shouting that doesn't amount to very much real substance. I am all for having a deep discussion and or a lively debate, and I don't need anyone to agree with me. But I do still tend to avoid the touchy topics because again, they lead to a lot of loud voices and no real discussion. So, when these kind of topics come to the surface, I am often that girl who will smile and step back. But I had already planned to talk about online courses in today's episode, so here we are. Now, maybe you didn't realize this is such a hot topic right now. If so, good for you. And let me take a moment just to share why it is. Over the past few weeks, Amy Porterfield and Jenna Kutcher made announcements about some changes that they are making in their business. Amy is closing the doors to her digital course academy, and Jenna has aired her final episode of the Gold Digger podcast. You may be wondering why this is such a controversy. I know I was wondering why the decisions made by these two women had the online world in an uproar. After all, businesses grow and change, and they need to grow alongside the needs of the people they serve. In the case of Amy, she's moving towards a new program, it looks like, and I would assume she wants to give her time and energy to that. And Jenna, well, maybe she's just said all she needs to say on her podcast for now. She's been doing it for nearly a decade, after all, and has shared a lot with us. And yet, those choices that they made to move in new directions seems to have rocked the entrepreneurial world, creating a lot of fear, speculation, and straight up trash talk. So, again, I had to ask myself, why does this matter so much? And here is what I've come to, or at least what I believe. I think far too many entrepreneurs have modeled their business after someone else, like Amy or Jenna, thinking that if we copy what they do or follow their formula for success, we too can be wildly successful. Now, I use the word we as a general term, and I am not referring to me, to you, or anyone specifically. But we copy brand colors and fonts, mirror our messaging to sound like the person we're copying, or launch a course or podcast because that's how the other person became successful. Essentially, we turn businesses into a clone of what somebody else has created, hoping that is all that we need to do to achieve success, all while feeling deep down within that this is not the right path. I think Kaylee Meyer of Reveal Studios said it perfectly when she shared in one of her recent Instagram posts. Two people changing their businesses doesn't mean an entire industry is collapsing. If someone else changing their strategy makes you panic, that's a business design issue between you and yourself that needs to be fixed. And if something works for you and your audience, then it's not dead. Now, I will include the link to the full post in my show notes if you'd like to take a look at what Kaylee had to share. But after reading her post, I did a little researching on this topic myself because I admit that the controversy caught my attention. And boy, oh boy, are there a lot of opinions out there as to whether or not blogging and courses are dead. There was actually one video that I stumbled upon as I was trying to make sense of the uproar that made a statement that she really caught my attention. And I apologize, I don't have that link. I actually didn't listen to the full episode because I didn't really agree with what she was saying. But this one statement really did get me thinking, and I jotted it down and went on about my day without grabbing the link. And here's what she said that grabbed my attention. We are no longer in an age when you can just follow a formula and become wildly successful. I am sorry, but I don't think we were ever in that age. Success does not come from a magic formula or by taking the right courses. It comes through the actions we ourselves take. Now, if I had continued listening to her video, perhaps she would have come to the same point that I'm making here as well. But it does bring me to the overall focus of today's episode. We are the ones that make our own success, not a course that we take or a book we read or a podcast that we listen to. We create our success. The formulas, programs, courses created by people like Amy and Jenna aren't rules that we have to follow. They are simply tools to help educate and inspire us into action. Like any other tool, how well we use it is what determines how much we get out of it. So rather than focusing on finding magic solutions and looking for the rules, quote unquote, to creating success, let's use the tools available to us to our advantage while still paving our own path ahead. And I know there are a lot of rules out there, but I don't think it is the people we follow who define them as rules. They are sharing what has worked for them with the hope that you find your path more quickly. The truth is that there are actually very few rules in business that we have to follow. So here are the few that came to the top of my mind that I know we all need to follow. We need to have appropriate licensing for where we're located. Business license, whatever the case, we need to have it. We need to accurately track our expenses and our income because Uncle Sam's going to want to know, and we need to file our taxes. There are probably some other rules depending on how you operate, what your industry is, and where you're located, but these are the ones that we all have to follow. Everything else, honestly, is a suggestion or an idea to help guide us forward. And yet, we keep making up these quote unquote rules in our mind that we believe will determine our success. And I think we do this often because we lack confidence. At least I know that's been true for me in the past. For whatever reason, we don't believe that we are smart enough, educated enough, experienced enough, and we don't believe we have what it takes to be successful. I have been there. I have felt that way. And I guarantee it was a confidence issue more than anything else. So we copy others in the hopes that our dreams will come true. We buy programs and sign up for courses and copy what they are doing down to the letter. The trouble that we run into when we follow somebody else's path that has been defined is it is a path that leads us towards their dream, and that is why it never feels quite right. It's time, my friends, for us to own how amazing that we all are. As my guest KJ last week said, people are watching, and it's time for you to step in and own what you're really good at. I get it. Breaking the rules is not always easy, especially when we believe this quote unquote rule is going to define our success. Anytime I have made the choice to break a rule in business, I had a healthy dose of doubt in doing so and would question if I had lost my mind. And yet, there have been moments over the years as I was building my business that, despite all the well intentioned and expert advice coming my way, there were certain rules I knew I had to break to follow my path to success. And one of those was actually offering my courses and resource library for free. I have had courses available on my website since I was a life coach. Back then, when I was a life coach, I did charge for my courses and I made a little bit of money. But early on in my web design days, I decided to share my courses and the other resources there to my audience for free. That was about 6 years ago when the online course world was really starting to grow into what it is today. And my decision to make them free was really unpopular at the time. I had business besties, colleagues, coaches telling me that I was crazy. And I often heard comments like, Teresa, these are so helpful. You really need to charge for them. Or there's so much content here, you just can't give it away. And I heard things like, your knowledge is worth something. You have to charge something. They all meant well and believed that they were giving great advice. And honestly, they were giving great advice for someone else. But I knew deep down it wasn't the right advice for me. And so my courses as a web designer and brand strategist have always been free and probably always will be. Here is how this has worked for my business. As I am willing to share my knowledge freely, I am in fact sharing something of real value with my audience, which has brought new people into the fold. Some of the people who have taken my courses have done really well and moved on to creating successful businesses for themselves. This helps make the world a better place. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to have helped them achieve success on their terms. Others knew that no matter how thorough I was and helpful my content was, it just wasn't something they wanted to do themselves. And since they already trusted me, they hired me to do it for them. I have no idea how much money I have made from these clients who decided to hire me. I just haven't tracked that information. But I know the number isn't insignificant, and I have gotten some truly wonderful clients through my free courses and my resource library. Plus, I love sharing something of value that can help my fellow solo small business owners. Managing a small business, especially on your own, can be incredibly complicated and overwhelming. So, while some people still call me crazy, I am going to continue to break this rule. Another rule that I broke was to offer a full year of support with all my web design contracts. This doesn't mean it takes me a year to build websites. I simply saw what I felt was a hole in the web design industry that I was willing to fill. So many people building websites as a business follow a set pattern. They build, they launch, they move on. And there are a lot of things that I don't particularly like about this model. For instance, moving on after every launch means that I am always looking for new clients. I build very real relationships with my clients throughout the project, and I don't want those relationships to come to an end so abruptly. Also, leaving after launch would leave my clients feeling like they were on some shaky, uncertain ground. What if they realized something we designed wasn't working how we thought it would? Would they have to pay more to come back to me to get it changed? Would I even be around if they needed to make the change? Not all web designers stick around or make changes after the fact without charging a whole ton of money. These are just a few of the reasons or a few of the things that I didn't like about the web design industry. But my decision to stick around for a full year went even deeper than that. I know me. I know that if a client reached out to request a change, I was going to dive in and make that change before even thinking of charging for my time. And while there is nothing wrong with being helpful, I am in business to make money, not just be nice. So giving my time away all the time doesn't respect myself or the agreement that I've made with my clients. So that's when I decided rather than leaving my clients after launch or giving away free support, I thought, why don't I build a full year into my contract and keep that in mind when setting my prices? Here's how this helped my business. Now, again, this is one of those things that I heard how crazy I was. Even I even had one business coach work really hard to talk me out of offering a full year. And I'm glad I didn't listen to her because since making the shift to providing a full year support from our initial design meeting, my clients feel more at ease and confident with their decision to work with me. We have all heard the horror stories of shoddy web designers who build a crap website and then disappear. And some of my clients have been really, really burned by this. Knowing I was there by their side before, during, and after the launch of their new website was a comfort that they didn't know they needed. Also, oftentimes my clients don't realize how much work goes into maintaining a website after launch. In the old model, we would often ignore making changes to our website to save money. With my full year of support, they don't have to ignore those kind of changes and they don't have to make sacrifices. So their website stays up to date and is always relevant to the changes they're making in their business. Finally, this decision helped me generate more consistent income for my business. I have been blessed with a circle of clients who have been with me for years that continue to support my business as I support them. Honestly, this is a win win for both of us, and yet it's so much more than that. We get to be there for each other through the good times and through some of the rough times. We've witnessed each other's successes and we've cheered each other on. To this day, I believe that this one single decision is at the center of why I love my business so much. And it all started with breaking a rule. Another rule that really raised some eyebrows and had people questioning my sanity was when I decided not to raise my prices just because I could. About 5 years ago, I was working with a coach who was really encouraging me to raise my prices. Everyone else was raising their prices at that time. I had some costs that were going up in my own business with a few of the software programs I use. And as she shared, it would be easy for me to justify raising my prices because of the value that I offer. Now, I did briefly raise my prices until I realized that the people I love working with couldn't afford me. I quickly discovered if making more money means leaving behind the clients I have come to know and love, and then taking on new clients that don't fit in with my dream clients, well, no thank you then. It only took me 2 consultations to realize I didn't want to raise my prices. Yes, it was true. I could justify doing so, and I had a little increase in my own overall cost of operating my business. But while making money, is a focus in my business, it's not the primary focus. My success doesn't come down to dollar signs. It comes from the satisfaction of doing something I love for people I love working with. And here is how this rule has supported my business, or breaking this rule has supported my business. First of all, the clients that I have come to know and love for the most part are still with me. Some have pivoted in their businesses. Others have outgrown me as their business grows. Some have decided to close their business. But I still have a great relationship with those who have left, and that really matters to me. The new clients that I attract are my dream clients. I understand them and what they need, even when they don't realize it. And I love being a support to them in a really complicated online world. Finally, I absolutely love going to work each and every day. Just this morning, I was snuggled up with my pups and a cup of coffee thinking about the day ahead. And I honestly was really excited to jump in and start my day. That is how I define success. Okie dokie. The last rule that I broke that I wanted to share with you all today is breaking up with social media. Sort of. A few months ago, I decided to break up with social media. It wasn't an easy decision or one that I made on a whim. And there are a lot of people who advise me to stick with it. After all, it has been a big part of my business for many years and has benefited me well. But this is also one of those decisions that I knew I needed to make. And it is one I have not regretted. Since quitting social media as a focus for my business and my marketing, I feel lighter, freer, and enjoy the online world so much more. I built and launched a new website that is 100% authentically me, and I updated my free courses and resource library so my audience has even better support. Finally, I have been able to double down on the areas of marketing that I love doing, like this podcast and my blog. I am really loving the time that I am spending on both of those. These are all new changes, so I have yet to see the full benefits that this change is going to bring my business. But I can say this, I simply feel better and more at peace with what I'm putting out into the world. And that matters to me. Now, I have tipped a toe back into social media a tiny bit and even thought about returning after the end of the first quarter of 2026. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Only time will tell. But whatever I do, I'm going to do it for me and the success I am building, and not because somebody else thinks that I have to. All right, my friends, this brings us to the end of today's episode. But before I say goodbye for the day, I would love to hear what rules you have broken in your business that paid off. Shoot me an email at theperfectblend@caffeinecreative.io and let me know. I would love to have that conversation with you. Have a fabulous rest of your day and week ahead, and I will see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Solo Grind. I hope this episode is leaving you feeling a little more confident in the amazing person you are and inspired to define success on your own terms. And I would love it if you would take just a second to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, as it helps me reach even more solo small business owners just like you.